I get a lot of questions on how I'm able to bring my bike on all these trips that I go on. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do a review of this bike case that I've got. This is the Evoc Bike Bag Pro, and then also give you a few tips and tricks on what I've learned so far over the past 2 years traveling with my bike. But yeah, I get tons of questions on like, how do you do it? What are you using? Or the other questions I love when you've got a case like this is, what's in the bag? None of your business. People ask a lot of questions at the airports. So just about 2 years ago, I went to Hawaii with my family on a vacation, and I decided to bring my bike with me, but had no idea how to do it. So did a ton of research to figure out what cases were available for me to bring my pretty expensive road bike with me. And the case that I landed on was this one. This is the Evoc Bike Bag Pro. That is a lot to say. But yeah, I ended up with this case, and it's been really, really good so far. The top is made of a pretty stiff, kind of like, I guess you would say plastic composite. The bottom is pliable, so this is more of material, but it's pretty thick. But it holds its shape really well because it's got these spleens in it. So all around the sides are these plastic spleens that you insert. And these ribs really help to keep it nice and stiff while you're in transport. It's got these wheels at the bottom, so really easy for rolling it around. And it also has a removable front wheel. So you take this off whenever you're getting ready to check the bag in. And then what I'll do is I'll just store it in this little pocket down here. So right before I check it in at the ticketing counter, I'm always remembering to remove that wheel because I do not want to lose it in transport and it just pops right off. But it's meant to just be an easy way to pivot your bike around and move it through the airport to and from wherever you have to go. So now I've got it on there. And yeah, I'm on a soccer field right now, so maneuverability is pretty limited on the field, but for the most part it's really easy to drag around. And I haven't had any issues with transporting. I mean, it's big and awkward sometimes when I land at certain airports that do not have a rental car situation right there at the airport. Getting on and off shuttles has been a little bit tricky, but for the most part hasn't been impossible so far. So back to the case itself, it's got these handles on the top, handles on the side. These are really helpful for maneuvering the bike around, but the case looks soft, but it's not really that soft. It's pretty hard on the top, but the bottom is a little bit soft. That's not anything to really worry about. That was a big concern of mine when I was first looking into getting this case and a few others, is how safe are the sides going to be? You know, is the frame going to get damaged at all? So and for those of us that have got expensive bikes, we really want to keep everything nice and protected. But the benefit of this case that I really love the most, and the selling point, was the fact that all you need to do is take your wheels and pedals off before you mount it in the case. Inside of the case, this is what it looks like. There is the frame. So this frame is removable. There's also this crush barrier, and I'll show you where this goes later. But basically you just kind of stick it right here, and that is just to ensure that the back stays nice and stiff and nothing crushes in on your frame. But I'll do a better job of showing that in a moment. I'm gonna remove this out of here. So this is the frame, and that sits at the bottom of the bag, and then you just mount your bike onto this. And these things are totally adjustable, so depending on the size of your frame is how you would adjust the height of where things are going to be positioned. So for me, it's right here for my tarmac. And then also what I've done is I've made markings. So this piece right here moves back and forth pretty freely, but I've marked all my different frames so I know exactly where to push it up or push it back to adjust so that the frame can mount onto this nicely. really easy to use, and this is kind of like the crux of the bike bag itself. And then also you'll get this kind of protectant barrier for the top of your bars, and it just mounts like that. I'll show you how that looks once the frame is secured to the sled there. So with the case, you get these 2 wheel bags, and I've got my wheels already inside the bags already, but you get the 2 wheel bags to put your wheels in. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and just walk you through how I set up mounting the frame to the bag frame and getting it into the case. All right, so here you just pretty much use your through axles from your bike and place it through the opening as if you were putting your wheel on. Just tighten this down to the frame. All right, so the bike is pretty much ready to go. I've got the frame tightened down to the end points. So what I do here is I used to have a special chain holder, but that broke. And what I do now is I use a couple strips of cardboard and I just kind of lay it over the chainstay and just lightly wrap the chain keep it from flopping around and doing damage to your frame. There's straps that come with the bag, but I have these other kind of like fancier straps, and I'll use it to wrap the crank to keep it from moving around during transportation. But for the most part, everything seems to be pretty solid. Rear derailleur is not striking anything. There's clearance down here. I'm always cautious of keeping the caliper protectors in here. I'm not sure what these are called, but basically I have these inside of the calipers just to make sure that during transportation the brakes don't get engaged and the pistons don't fall out of your calipers. So it's important to keep those things in. They do not come with the bag, but you know, these things are pretty easy to get a hold of if you don't already have some laying around. Alright, so there's the bar protector. Got that on, just snaps here. Nothing major, just added piece of protection for the top of your bars. So, didn't take much effort to put the bike frame in the bag. Got it in there. I've got it latched down. This one's pretty loose. I'm just kind of for demonstration purposes going to show you how I like to do it. I usually like to go around the seat post, and then once I get it around the seat post, I just take up the slack by pulling up on this. It'll get much tighter than that, but just for demonstration purposes, you'll see how I have it secured in the bag. And then at this stage, I just put my wheels in there. I'll throw a wheel on each side of the frame. And then I'll throw in my bike bottles, helmet, shoes, and then some tools, and that's basically it. That's all I do. Oh, and the crush bar. Super important to include this, because this will keep your frame from getting beat up. So now you can see the protection here. If there's any side impact, keeps the frame from getting crushed. And then from here, I usually will zip up. Oh, another thing to talk about is, for some of you that are pretty tall, you'll want to mount the frame to the lowest it'll go without the crank striking the ground, and then you may have to lower your seat post so that it clears the case and you can close it, which isn't a big deal. So definitely want to carry just a few basic tools with you, which you should always have anyway if you're going to be traveling with a bike. And then you can zip up from here. So I usually like to go midway, and then grab that one. I use a barrel lock, a TSA approved barrel lock. I'll talk about the cons later, but this thing broke in pretty quick fashion. I have no idea why, but the bike is packed and secure. All right, so that is the bag and how I'm traveling by plane around the world with my bike. This bag's been worth every penny, quite frankly, except for the fact that the TSA lock busted only on the second trip. No idea what happened there, but that's okay, because like I said before, you'll just be using a TSA approved barrel lock to go through the zippers. And yeah, this is a very flexible, robust bike case. I feel totally comfortable. So yeah, nothing but good things to say about it. In terms of airline fees, I've been charging anything from $30 to $150, depends on the airline. Usually you can find out the fees easily on an airline's website and just look for information on oversized luggage. But for the most part, I always try to book a flight on Alaska because they've been the best. They've been the most reliable. Delta's been pretty good as well, at least for me when I fly from my local airport here in San Jose. All right, to finally wrap up this video, here's some pros and cons to this bag. The pros are, considering how big and bulky this case is, it's pretty easy to use, so I like that. Also, like that you're not required to break your bike down, so that's a huge plus, especially for people that have integrated cable housing going through their bars. Taking that stuff apart can be an utter nightmare, so you're not required to do anything other than taking your pedals and your wheels off. The final positive that I can tell you is it's been super solid, very reliable for travel so far, and my gravel and road bikes have been safe. For the cons, this is a pretty big case, so you'll need to have an SUV or a wagon or anything that's got a lot of trunk space to get you to and from the airport. So the other con is the issue that I experienced with the TSA lock system on my case, where it broke after the second time using it. So I'm just kind of chalk that up to maybe the TSA broke it, or who knows, but it seems to be a little delicate. So I'm pretty bummed about that for the price of this case. And lastly, the final con that I can give you is that this is a really expensive case. There are other options on the market that are a few $100 cheaper, but for the most part, this case is really for people that are going to be traveling with their bikes frequently and they just want peace of mind regarding safety. And that's it. So hopefully this video has been helpful to anyone that's curious about how to travel with a bike safely and what the case options are like, but specifically to this particular case that I reviewed. If you've got any questions, feel free to reach out and I'll do my best to answer them.